What we're taking a look at today is how to create a off-camber side hill drill that you can use to enhance your off-camber cornering and also to enhance your off-camber riding in general. The idea here with this drill is to set it up, on a side hill. You can make it as hard or as easy as you want to. Maybe start off with something not too off-camber and then you work your way up. This is actually relatively off-camber here. This section that I'm working on is just a little side hill coming down into a park. And the goal here is to be able to create a situation where I can rotate my hips and in my inside knee in toward the hill that I'm riding on. So essentially, I'm going to be raising my left hip and raising my left elbow and pointing my right knee in toward the hill as I move into it. So as I approach here, I'm going to have level feet on approach. And as I get closer to the hill, we'll zoom in a little bit here. As I get closer to the hill here, we're going to see my inside knee open a little bit right about here as my outside foot starts to move down. So we really start to see that here. So we really see the shape of my body starting to change here. That outside hip starting to raise, that inside knee starting to point, the outside elbow also starting to raise up. So we can see that pretty clearly here as we start to look through this footage. So as I get down further into the section here, it actually gets more and more off camber. So as I come down into here, you're going to see even more rotation at the hips, even more pressing forward with that left knee, and even more opening of the right knee in toward the hill. Essentially what's happening here as I create outside foot pressure, as my outside foot starts to move down, is I'm starting to create pressure into the inside row of knobbies, which is actually the row of knobbies that's on the ground. So I'm really creating pressure here into the inside row of knobbies on the tire. And I'm doing this, again, by creating pressure in here by raising the outside elbow and by raising the outside hip. Both of those things are helping conspire to point my body into the hill a little bit and to allow me, again, to create a situation where I'm creating traction on that inside row of knobbies as I enter here. So we'll see here as I move through a little further that I actually twist my hips even a little bit more here. So it gets even a little bit more exaggerated as I try to stay with this. This is probably the most off-camber portion of this section. One of the other things that's really important here that I'm doing is I'm really looking where I want to go. So my vision is looking up here. My vision is not looking down here, which would cause some potential issues. And this is something I often ask my riders to do when I'm teaching. When I'm on an off camber or in a challenging situation like this where I could lose ground, it's really important that my general gaze is drawn up toward the inside of the trail. So generally speaking here, my gaze is always going to be at the inside of the trail in an off-camber section like this. This is going to keep me from looking at where I might go should things not go the way I'd hoped. So really important here that we're not just turning the body, we're also turning our line of vision into the hill as we move through. Now, I'm not simply slamming the outside foot all the way down here. Rather than that, I'm actually moving through my footwork. So as I come into here, my left foot is going to move down as I move into this section. It might end up all the way at the bottom at 6 o'clock at some point during this section. It might not. Now, if you're a left foot forward rider, this is going to be a front foot section for you. Your front foot's going to move forward and down, and that's going to allow your body to turn to the right into the hill. If you're a right foot forward rider, this is going to be a back foot section, meaning your left foot's going to move down and back, and that's going to turn the right side of your body into the hill. So regardless of which foot you lead with, we're pressing on the outside or basically on the downhill foot. So we're going to be pressing on the outside or downhill foot here. And that foot pressure, again, is going to be allowing us to open the inside of the body and turn the inside of the body in the direction that we want to go in hill. So go ahead and give this a try. Set up some cones on an off-camber section like this. And start really thinking about the elements that you're using to get through this. Are you turning your hips? Are you raising the outside elbow? Are you looking where you want to go? Are you getting outside foot pressure? And as you start to put these things together, you'll really start to feel a sense of traction and control developing in situations that might otherwise be super, super challenging. Of course, we want to practice this in both directions. So we want to make sure we also work on having the hill be on our left-hand side. So I've just moved the cones around so that I can practice the other side. Now the right foot's going to move down as the inside knee opens in toward the hill. The right hip and the right elbow are going to raise slightly, allowing me to angle the body in hill a little bit. So let's take a quick look through at this. Notice when I make my move. So as I come into here, I'm going to come in level-footed, and then I'm going to make a pretty rapid rotation of the hips into the heel itself. That's going to give me power as I set my tire edge. So as I come in here, essentially what we're going to be seeing here is as I move in, right in this zone somewhere in here, as I come in, I'm going to be pretty neutral. So I haven't done anything yet. I'm pretty neutral. I'm not turning my hips yet. I can see what's coming up, but I don't need anything yet. The power is in the moment. So as I come in, I'm going to really crank the hips here and really start to raise that outside hip. So I'm really setting my tire edge in. And we can see here pretty clearly that the outside hip starts to raise slightly, outside elbow is up, and the outside foot is moving down as the inside knee moves in hill. So be sure you're practicing this in both directions. You'll find it's probably going to be a lot easier in one direction than it is in the other direction. And that's a telltale sign that your body needs work on coordination in both directions. So a really great drill. Even though we're not actually cornering here, we're still working on our cornering. We're still working on hip rotation, and we're still working on staying over the bottom bracket, over the middle of the bicycle. So a lot of really important elements coming into play in this drill.